Hey everybody, I'm Mark Walters of BigFanboy.com here at the Dallas International Film Festival in the interview lounge, my final interview of the film festival, and we definitely have saved the best for last. He is one of my favorite actors. He is one of my favorite directors, even though he's only made 2 films. They're both phenomenal. Gregg, thank you so much for being here.
That's a heck of an introduction, thank you.
Well,
I don't feel like I can live up to that.
Yeah,
I feel like people are going, I don't really like the one before this.
No, I love Choke. And in fact, after I saw Choke, the first thing that went through my head was, you know, when is Clark going to make more films? And I am kind of curious, you know, after that came out, why did it take so long? I mean, I know you've been busy, you've been working. So.
Choke made me so rich that it's a miracle I even had to act anymore. You know, it says something to the state of independent film these days in this kind of super changing environment that it's just really hard to get an independent film made. Mm-hmm. You know, I guess I loved making Choke. I loved that process of kind of rallying a bunch of my friends to tell a story that I was interested in. And so much that it's what I wanted to do again. I went back to work on a sitcom I was doing with Julia Louis-Dreyfus for a year or so, but I immediately wrote a version of Trust Me and started putting that together. And Marvel kept me a little busy. That was part of it. But you know, once it takes a year or so, in this case, to kind of get the right cast and find some financing, and then it takes another year to get it finished and edited, and you know, in the festivals and sold, and you know. I guess I won't be making too many films if I keep on this pace.
Well, people, I think, don't realize just how hard it is to make a film. I mean, there's so many moving parts to it, and you know, there's so much paperwork and things that you have to do. And so I am curious with a film like Trust Me, which I really enjoyed, but I have to imagine this is probably not a film that Hollywood is going to embrace because it is very much a commentary kind of on the system, the Hollywood system.
Yeah, you know, I didn't realize when I was writing it how many hurdles I created for myself, and that it was about a loser agent for child actors, and it has some real darkness, and it's kind of a comedy, but it also really, the model for it for me was kind of a film noir, and it doesn't look kindly on the kind of obsession with, you know, celebrity and stardom and making it, and the impact that seems to have on young performers. And so when I went to try to cast some very successful young performers, it didn't look kindly on the kind of parental boundaries of some of those characters. Not all of them. There's plenty of parents raising child actors who take great care of them, but there are some clearly who don't, as the history's filled with it. And so when I went to some of those actors, their parents were, I would not say super open to the ideas in the script. And then it also, it has some kind of surreal flourishes. And as I said, it's a very unusual kind of dark comic noir tone. And then after I finished the first draft, my partner, who's a wonderful casting director, Mary Vernew, who casts all Darren Aronofsky and David O. Russell's movies, said, this is a role you have to play. And I said, because he's a big loser, is what you're saying. And she's like, yes, but he's your kind of loser. Yes. And you nobody can make a loser feel like he has some heart like you. And I cocked my head and said thank you, and I realized that I woke up a lot of nights thinking of other actors I wanted to just give the script to, and other directors. I didn't really fancy the idea of doing both, but I couldn't bring myself to give up either. I had a real vision for the thing, I thought, and I realized I had just turned 50, and I thought, I don't think anyone's ever going to give me a role this great or this like this, anyway. And so I jumped in and did both jobs, but certainly me playing the lead along with the tone, along with some of the, you know, scathing parts of the comedy about Hollywood, it definitely took us a little while to find people foolhardy enough to invest.
Did it help also the fact that you yourself are a father and you have a 12-year-old daughter, and I mean, like when you're looking at a movie about a girl that is trying to make it in Hollywood and kind of the perils that come with that, from family to Hollywood taking advantage. I mean, were you able to draw off a personal experience to some extent from that?
I never acted when I was a kid. Not really. I certainly was never in the business, never really started to make any money till I was in my 30s. But I was around a lot of kids who acted, and I definitely saw some characters that reminded me of Howard. He's kind of a synthesis of a couple of them. There's something just struck me as so surreal. These guys kind of dealing with the tough moms and dads, some of them, and trying to find this talented 12-year-old who was going to take them to the big time. Something about that just seemed crazy, and at the same time, it was part of this larger script that I was writing. That was the whole thing. Really, it was less than ideas, like this fevered dream I had with all some stories I had heard and some stories that occurred to me. This giant ensemble thing about kind of youth and disillusionment in Los Angeles, and I didn't know what the hell it was. And I knew it was going to be a 9-hour movie, and really no one was going to make that one. So I pulled out this piece, and I did a lot of research, but it's funny, to me as the artist, it never really felt like it was about show business, even though it absolutely is. And it just felt like it was about innocence. I feel like, people talk about the movie business, and I think the movie business as being particularly, I don't know what, exploitative or venal or desperate. But I think it's just a more glamorous or glamorized version of most businesses.
Sure.
And its currency is dreams. And the movies I like kind of work on that kind of socio-political level, but they can't really have a message, or I don't care about them much. It's really, I realized that it was a parable. And I think it's why the kind of, as the movie goes along and this poor guy fights more and more desperately to hold on to this kind of prodigy that he's found, his grip on reality gets more and more tenuous. And I felt like it becomes more and more of a kind of fable. Mm-hmm. And it just was as I said, it's something that kind of came out as a dream, and I turned around at the end of writing it and realized how personal it was, which is the same thing I felt about Choke, which was very much a book by Chuck Palahniuk that on the surface just struck me as ludicrous and hilarious and satirically brilliant. And I realized how personal a version of that story was to me. The idea of someone who's really kind of been beaten up and jaded, kind of rediscovering something really key that he's lost through a connection with someone who is still innocent, or at least seems that way, was something I very much connected to.
Yeah. You have a wonderful cast. It's always great seeing Sam Rockwell, and especially seeing you guys working together again. Was he kind of your first choice for that role, or was that one of those things that, like, was there a moment of genius where you're like, oh, I know Sam's perfect for this?
I just wanted Sam to be in anything I ever did. I had such a great time with him in Choke. We've known each other since we did plays together in New York. He's the kindest person I know, and and certainly one of the most talented people I've ever had the pleasure to work with. And and I basically said, you can play any role, including the women, whatever you want. And Aldo was the one he kind of thought he'd have the most fun with, and I loved having him as a cooler nemesis. Mm-hmm. And he instantly was cooler than my character, as he kind of is cooler than me. And so he was kind enough to sign up, and he came on to produce. I don't think that I'll survive another attempt at kind of playing the lead of something I wrote and directed. So generally that's what I want Sam to do. Mm-hmm. And in this case, he really, he was kind enough to say how much he wanted to see me play this role. And he came on as a producer, and he kind of helped me scheme about who might be great for some of the other roles. And so we got some of my oldest friends, Bill Macy and Felicity Huffman, and someone I'd really wanted to work with and had kind of been paired up with a couple of times in kind of script readings, Amanda Peet, Allison Janney, who he had just done The Way Back with her, and I'd done a bunch of West Wings with her and adored her. I think she's a genius. And then it really was about finding this young girl and her father. Yeah. And Sam and Mary Vernew simultaneously came to me about Paul Sparks, who's this tremendous New York actor who's on Boardwalk Empire, playing a very kind of weaselly character who's so different from who he is. And I think that's who people think this guy is. And he couldn't be more different than that, or even the guy he played here. So we found him and in a kind of happy bunch of synergy. And then it really was about, I knew I couldn't make the movie unless I found just a prodigiously talented young girl. And I saw a lot of people, and there was really wonderful young actresses, but there wasn't anybody who felt not like an actress, who just felt like this person. And Mary found Saxon Charbonneau and brought her in, and within a couple of minutes, I just knew this was who I was going to go with. She reminded me kind of a young Jodie. I'm quoting a line from the script.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Young Jodie Foster. This girl's very young and new to town, and in one of the scenes, she talks about how people say she's like a young Joni Foster.
Right.
And my character has to correct her because she doesn't even know Jodie Foster's name. And Saxon's from Dallas.
Yeah.
Saxon's from Dallas, hilariously.
She has such a real quality about her. Like when you see her, you say, I can totally see her being an actress, but she just looks like you're looking at a real person.
She was a kid who did some acting here, moved to LA, and very soon after met me. Mm-hmm. And she has since gotten a lot of work. In fact, she just did a kind of remake of Poltergeist with Sam and played his daughter. And she's just remarkable. And the very few people who've seen this film, everyone kind of raves about this discovery. So we made it a year and a half ago. We did a photo shoot the other day, and I'm not proud of it, but I had to stand on phone books because she no longer looks 14. Now she's almost 13 is what she was in the movie. She's 14 now, but she's almost my height. Yeah. She's grown so much, but I'm very excited to see where she's going. And I think her performance is going to knock some people out. So
absolutely, absolutely. Watching Felicity Huffman playing the studio executive and even Allison and her role as Meg, have you met those people? Have you interacted with those people on multiple occasions?
I have, and as I told them, I think there's a cliche about Hollywood, which is that it's kind of populated by evil people. Mm-hmm. And I don't believe that's true, as I said, any more than any other business. There are definitely some people who get in a situation where suddenly the zeros are substantial and people lose track and become hardened. And there's definitely people like that I've come across. And I've definitely been on the wrong side of some, very close calls at jobs when I was younger, and felt roughed up, felt mistreated. I'd be lying if I said I didn't think they were settling a few scores in here. But I also, it was really important to me to go into Allison plays this very powerful casting director. My partner's a casting director. Mm-hmm. She loves actors more than anybody, like the really good casting directors do. I never saw her as evil, and I never felt like Howard, the character I was playing that they dealt with, had behaved in a way that earned a lot better treatment from them. Yeah.
Have you ever had to get in the elevator?
If I got in the elevator, it just went down and I went home, It's a scene you'll see in the movie.
One of my favorite scenes in the movie, get in the elevator, because I'm sure that type of stuff does happen all the time, and having to call the bluff, but you're right. If you call the bluff and it doesn't work out, then you've potentially screwed yourself for God knows how long in the business. So
it's amazing, that part of it to me, that you can be in a negotiation, you go, and it's happened to me more as a writer. It was the first place anyone cared whether or not I got in the elevator, where you meet people, you get along, you strike a creative connection, and you decide you want to move forward. Mm-hmm. And there's so much pressure on those people in their jobs, both financially and creatively, to deliver a hit, to deliver it on budget, that then they turn you over to business affairs. And the guy from business affairs calls your representative, and it just turns into a pit bull fight. And I've never really gotten paid what I consider to be a fair thing without saying, okay, well, we can't do it then.
Yeah.
Which is just terrifying when you need the break. And especially as the kind of film business has compressed a little bit, there's more people fighting for fewer jobs, and that's always a situation where people are able to play some very daring poker hands.
Is it daunting? Because with Choke, you were directing with Chuck's work. This one you wrote, you directed, and you starred in it. When you're wearing that many hats, is there a moment where you kind of think to yourself, like, I'm trying to do too much? Or did you feel even more in control by doing it that way?
That's a really good question. I think the answer is kind of yes to both. As I said, I woke up every night thinking I was going to call somebody and say, you got indie directors I like, please take this.
Yeah.
And yet I could, as I said, I couldn't let go of it. It seemed like a crazy idea. The closer it got, the more terrified I was. I super prepared. I hired a fantastic cinematographer, Terry Stacy, which was the smartest thing I did. And I surrounded myself with people I trusted and loved, whose work was, if anything, I was going to have to try to live up to. And then I just tried to kind of keep up with them. And those choices really panned out. And the coolest thing about it was, about 3 or 4 days into it, I realized this might kill me. I felt like I might faint from the level of energy expended in a given day, managing the script, the blocking, getting the amount of shots in time on a very quick schedule. I didn't have 2 cameras. We had 2 beautiful Alexa digital cameras, same thing we shot Avengers on. And that was a choice that Terry and I made, and that saved the day, because you can kind of get not quite twice as much work done, but you can get a lot more work done that way. And we were able to pull it off. But I also realized that the chaos that I was living in, and the kind of necessity of kind of just throwing myself nude off a balcony into a mosh pit of filmmaking that was necessary to get it done, that kind of level of full vulnerability, was exactly what was happening with this character. And I felt like that reality of the filmmaking process was the greatest tool any actor could have asked for, that chaos. That didn't give me any time to kind of think too much about the crazy stuff I was going to try to do.
I think it's a beautiful film, and I love how unconventional it is in many ways. I am curious, was there anything that you did have to sacrifice in the editing stage? Maybe a scene that you lost that you really wanted in there? Or was it the final cut pretty much, was that how you always envisioned it?
No, not at all. I knew it was an odd movie. Definitely I could have financed the movie 6 or 8 months earlier if I'd made it more conventional. There's some twists and turns that, and some of the imaginative stuff in Howard's head, it's, when it becomes more and more fably, it definitely has a tonal shift. But I decided, again, it's funny, at a certain age, I went, I'm never going to get to play this. And if I do, I don't want to have kind of anesthetized it and turned it into a kind of antiseptic indie rom-com, because I'll never get to do it again. It came to me in this vision, and I really wanted to respect that vision. It's a challenging piece, but I think that's what independent film is for. And I wanted to take a chance and try to make it this way. I got all the pieces together, and there was definitely ways that, when you start editing, you stop being the performer and you start being an audience member to a certain extent. So you kind of are schizophrenically jumping back and forth, being the person kind of leading the tour, and also the person going on the tour, and trying to decide, would that have surprised you if you didn't know it was coming? And I definitely had to kind of there's an old saw, which is you write one film, you shoot a second, and then you edit a third. And there's a deepness to that that's truer than anything I've ever heard, because it's literally a different thing in the editing room. Your ideas go out the window. All that's available to you is what you managed to shoot, which on a small budget, sometimes some of your stuff that was crucial to the way you were going to tell the story didn't work or didn't come off, or the light wasn't good enough, and you have to figure out a different way. So structurally, we made some big changes, and there was definitely a couple of early cuts that I think scared the hell out of the producers. And then a couple of things that were actually closer to earlier drafts of the script, I went back and kind of changed a kind of framing device where you see something that maybe from the end of the movie at the beginning really changed. People who saw the next cut after that said, made it more of a classic noir, kind of more Sunset, an homage to Sunset Boulevard. People who saw it afterward commented on all these different ways that all these different scenes played after that, and we had changed none of those scenes.
Right. I'd be yelled at if I didn't at least get one or two questions in about, you know where I'm going.
Yes.
I don't even have to say it.
You want to know more about Choke.
The first time I ever met you was actually we were sitting down and we were doing an interview before Thor came out, and Coulson was really kind of in the beginning of that big fandom that was coming out of that, and I know you were particularly excited to see that character growing, and now that it's grown into
shocked.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I was shocked and excited. Yes.
But now that it's grown into what it has, and especially now with the ramifications of what happened in the Captain America film and where that's going to take you, I know you probably can't tell us anything specific, but can you give us an idea maybe of where we're going to see Coulson go on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., or is it just...
Can I just say, Hail Hydra?
Well, you could say that. You could say that.
That's a joke.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. What can I say? It's been such an amazing journey. You know, he was a little cameo that they expanded, and suddenly I was doing a scene at the end of Iron Man 1 where Pepper Potts was thanking me.
Yeah.
And as a comic book fan, I nearly died on the spot. There's so many times when my heart's nearly stopped. And, you know, I had a little scene or two in Iron Man 2, and they cut one of them. And so I was really shocked at the end of one of them when they said, when I said, what's in New Mexico? I keep saying I'm going to New Mexico. They said, has nobody told you? Oh, yeah, you're in Thor. You have a bigger part in Thor. From there through the Avengers, dying, Coulson lives.
Yeah.
The connection with the fandom has just been remarkable for me because I'm a nerd. I love sci-fi and comics, and to kind of be their avatar in that world has been really emotional to me. I just love it so much. And to kind of turn around and suddenly Coulson lives on this show, and I'm, you know, when the fights with the aliens start, I don't have to go hide. I have to start the fight choreography or look for some giant weapon.
Yeah.
And that's a dream come true. I'm a very unlikely 52-year-old action star at the moment. And I'm having the time of my life. It's been most exciting. Perhaps the most exciting part of the journey has been the second half of the season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to kind of see the show, you know, slowly get set up, establish this team. It's a tall order in a world where all the characters people have known for 30, 40 years. And it's hard to do it 8 days on a TV screen when people are really used to seeing Marvel in a giant multiplex with a lot more time and money involved. But I've been so impressed with what the writers, Jed and Marissa Whedon and Jeff Bell and all our great writers, and Joss, his input, in terms of letting it kind of slowly build that way. And now the tie-in with Captain America is nothing I've ever seen. The ramifications on our show, you know, I'm involved with social media, but ABC really makes sure that we are. Mm-hmm. To kind of, it's been the first time I truly, truly loved it, was watching people's reaction to some of the big reveals and kind of starting to understand how connected the two universes were and where we might be going. And it also grounds it to me. You know, one of the things I loved when Joss pitched me the show was the idea that, you know, any organization that keeps the secrets and monitors people, you have to really ask questions, who's running it? Yeah. And that power has only corrupted people in every organization that I know about. So to kind of find that S.H.I.E.L.D. is riddled with people who are not trustworthy was the logical extension. It kind of reminds me of some of the paranoid spy thrillers I loved in the 70s, and it really, we finished the final episode 3 nights ago at midnight, and I always have the dual roles. I get to do it, I get to perform it, and as a fanboy, I'm sitting there going, I'm so upset I can't tell anyone what I just did and who was with me. It's killing me.
Are you the Vision?
They have revealed, I can say now, they have revealed that Lucky Paul Bettany gets to be the Vision.
Yeah, I
but
know. I'm just kidding.
I would be crazy if I ever longed to be anybody but Agent Phil Coulson, who, you know, it has been revealed, was brought back to life using some very interesting non-human substances. So it'll be very interesting to see what the ramifications are for Phil.
I can't wait to see where it's headed. Clark, thank you for bringing this here. We talked last year about it when we were at South by Southwest, and I was really looking forward to it. And I'm so glad that you brought it to Dallas. And I can't tell people enough. It's a great companion for Choke too.
Thank you.
Because I'm a big fan of Choke. So
thank you. I got to say, I had such a great time here with Choke that as soon as I saw when I was going to finish with the season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and when the release strategy was going to be for Trust Me, I immediately reached out to see if we could come back here. I'm really happy to be in Dallas.
We're glad you did. Clark Gregg, the movie is Trust Me. Check it out. We'll have more information below for you guys. And thank you, sir.
Thank
it's
you.
been an honor.
My pleasure. Thank you.